Hey, this is Shawn Thomas, and welcome to the Worship Together podcast, featured exclusively here on our Worship Together social media feed. This program is part of our ongoing outreach to create an online community of faith where believers can support one another and share their life experiences and testimonies, and most importantly, worship together. Each podcast episode is part of a 3-part series, and each series will focus on a variety of topics, and sometimes we'll even feature a guest host. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy this Worship Together podcast episode. Well, hey everybody, thank you so much for checking this out. This is our debut episode of our new Worship Together podcast. Woohoo! The crowd goes wild. Yay! I need to get like an applause effect. Right now we're not that fancy, but as we improve, I'll start putting sound effects in here. But I'm really happy to get to introduce you to, if you haven't met him before, my husband, Brian Ladd, Pastor Brian, who's going to be our guest host for the first 3 episodes in this series that is called What We Don't Know.
Thanks, Shawn. Hello, my friends. This is Brian Ladd. I'm coming to you from my home in sunny South Florida. Wish you were here. I'm excited to be the first presenter in this Worship Together podcast series, and I want to thank you, Shawn, for asking me to be a part. And I want to thank each of you for allowing me to take you on this journey together as we explore the topic of what we don't know. But first, I want to thank you for being a part of this Worship Together community. I love the fact that this community is hosted on a platform that is free of algorithms that choose what you see and when you see it. At Worship Together, you are part of an online community that focuses on, well, worship and things that bring us together as a community of faith. So please, if you haven't done so, tell your friends and family about this awesome community. You can find us at worship-together.com. And if you feel so led, you can become a monthly supporter of this work for a small monthly donation of $5. And now, what we don't know. Now, I realize this is a very broad topic, so let me narrow it down for you a bit. I want to focus on what we don't know about God. I know, that was not very helpful. It's almost as if I were saying, we're going to understand all the mysteries and wonders of the oceans of the world by studying a single drop of seawater. But that is exactly what we've done, isn't it? For thousands of years, humanity has told stories, written poems, written songs and books, established schools of thought, and created religions to express our experience and understanding of the divine. As a Christian minister, I've often pondered the irony of the fact that we preach and teach. We build schools and universities. We award degrees in theology, ministry, and divinity. We make bold, declarative statements about God. God is this, and God is that. God hates this, and God hates that. This pleases God, and that makes God angry. Most of the certainties that have been established have come from our understanding of a collection of writings written by many people over hundreds and hundreds of years. We know that collection of literature as the Bible. Now, many see the Bible as a rule book for a living, and others see it as a narrative about a group of people's relationship with God, played out over centuries. The interesting thing about this is that the collection of writings that came to be known as the Bible wasn't really finalized as the Bible until nearly 400 years after the resurrection of Jesus. So thoughts and notions about God as seen through the Bible have been developing and understood more and more as time passes. Interesting to me is one phrase that is used by Paul in the book of Romans, which is found in the New Testament of the Bible. In Romans chapter 11, verse 33, Paul makes an incredible statement about God that I completely ignored when I was a younger man, when I had it all figured out, when I was the man with the plan. Now, as an older man, what Paul says makes way more sense to me. I love the way it is written in the King James Version. He writes, "Oh, the depth of the riches both of the wisdom and knowledge of God! How unsearchable are his judgments, and his ways are past finding out." Did you catch that? God's ways are past finding out. Now, my way of saying this is, when it comes to God, we don't know what we don't know. It amazes me that so many people are so certain about how God views others that are different than them. I've yet to come across a denomination or religion that says, well, we think we found all the right answers, but we aren't really sure yet. No, many even go so far as to say that if you don't believe in God the way we do, or say the right prayer the right way at the right time, then you are destined to be eternally separated from God in a fiery place of torment forever. They go as far to claim inside knowledge about God's judgment. But what did we just read in Romans? Paul indicates that God's judgments are unsearchable. Say what? Does Paul mean that there isn't a set formula that God follows in the way that God deals with his creation? I'd like to think that that is exactly what he means, or at least if there is such a formula, we mere mortals will never be able to figure it out. As I ponder these things, it seems to me that we, and I mean most of the Christian movement, particularly the westernized church, have lost our sense of humility and wonder when it comes to the things of God. Faith has become synonymous with certainty, and we often hold our own views of things as, pardon me for saying it, the gospel. The problem with all of that is this: the good news doesn't seem to be so good anymore. We've lost the wonder of engaging with a God whose ways are past finding out. Instead, we beg and plead with a God that is more akin to Santa Claus or an angry monarch who makes us, the court jesters, dance for his personal entertainment. While I know there are so many things that we don't know, I feel safe in saying that God is neither Santa Claus nor an angry monarch. As a follower of Jesus, I can say with certainty that God is, above all things, good. If that is all we ever know about God, I submit to you that knowing that alone is enough and can bring us great peace and comfort. Do you know what you don't know? If you are like me, you discover each day, each and every day, that you don't know more and more, especially when it comes to the Creator of all things, whom we call God. So as you ponder what you don't know, I'd like to leave you with a powerful paraphrase of Romans 11:33 through 36. It's not the old English version that we've read in the King James Version, but rather it's the Message translation of the Bible. And here's how Paul sounds in modern day English. Have you ever come on anything quite like this extravagant generosity of God, this deep, deep wisdom? It's way over our heads. We'll never figure it out. Is there anyone around who can explain God? Anyone smart enough to tell him what to do? Anyone who has done such a huge favor that God has to ask his advice? Everything comes from him. Everything happens through him. Everything ends up in him. Always glory, always praise. Yes, yes, yes. We don't know what we don't know, and that is good news indeed. And I look forward to discussing how that is indeed good news next week. In the meantime, be kind to yourself and rest in the knowledge that God is good. I'm Brian Ladd. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Worship Together podcast. Be sure to check out our show notes in the comments below this post for additional information about today's episode. If you enjoyed the podcast, help us out by spreading the word about our Worship Together feed and invite your friends and church family to join us at worship-together.com.